and welcome to another episode of the Monday Rewind. I'm here with Society Reviews, King of Reviews, Jacob Smith. You can see his review of Dune 2 right here on the channel, as well as Ordinary Angels came out earlier today. But we're here to talk to you about Sydney Sweeney's huge speech that she made last night during her monologue. We're also here to talk to you about Dune 2 as well as the Sweet Baby Inc. battle with the Steam community.
Wait,
Welcome
Sydney
aboard.
Sweeney talked last Saturday?
I'm told. The internet hasn't confirmed, though, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I didn't hear a word she said the entire time. So, yeah. How's it going there, Cider?
Well, I was just reading through this story over here on Bounding Into Comics about Sweet Baby Inc. and how they melted down on Twitter here. The employees went absolutely berserk.
This is definitely a story I'm going to need a little bit of a catch me up on because, like I said, I had no concept of this story. I've heard so many people in our sphere talk about this one, but I know this has like a big thing with like localizers and video games. So I'd really love to get in depth into this whole situation because this seems like it's an absolute mess, but in a good way. So.
Well, in a good way and kind of a good way. The situation with Sweet Baby Inc. is that, to start with, they're a consulting group. You remember Anita Sarkeesian with her recommendation? Right, from Feminist Frequency. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she made the recommendation that there should be some type of either corporation or some department there or a consultancy group that handled how sexist and homophobic and racist everything everywhere was all the time. And so Sweet Baby Inc. says, we've got your back. And that's what they set out to do. Their mission statement says that they make games more entertaining and fun and inclusive, as you know. And none such better case has been the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League video game, whereas we find out in the character bios, buried inside of the game's data pools, is that King Shark is gay. We found out that King Shark's gay. The giant shark guy. It's like, that's really what I want to think about. Is the
where would the shark like stick it into the other? Exactly. How would that even work?
Exactly. And so this is what Sweet Baby Inc. does. They're the ones responsible for the wrong flag being in Miles Morales Spider-Man, as well as the deaf spray painter challenge, and so many more. So they're behind the Ragnarok changing of the oh gosh, I forgot her name. The goddess that was race swapped to be an African woman.
Oh yeah,
in Ragnarok, and then so that's been there.
So they're basically responsible for like every poor gaming decision in like the last 10 years.
Pretty much. And then on top of that, now we have let me see if I can jump right over to that Steam curated. There it is. Okay. We now have, as a result of that, the Sweet Baby Inc. Steam community curator page that when you follow it, when you follow the group, you are then shown like an extensive list of games that are involved or either influenced by Sweet Baby Inc. And the employees, as our article over here, had an absolute fit over that. And this basically goes over what I've explained, but this is what they do. They're responsible for all the pride flags in that Miles Morales Spider-Man video game. They're responsible. What is this? Angraboda having a different racial background than her. And this is what it does. This is what it does. Is it lists the games as not recommended if they have any influence or contractual like wibbledy-wobblies about Sweet Baby Inc. right here. And
so basically it was a group that like looks into how many games have these people poisoned, and if they have poisoned them, don't buy it for obvious reasons, right? So I'm getting here.
Well, correct. This is the point of the Steam community that then sent Lego Butts, aka Maya Kramer, a consultant on these games. She works for Sweet Baby Inc. to start going ballistic about this stuff over on Twitter. She writes, or he possibly, I don't know how they identify, they right? I get to see a lot of tweets somehow blaming diversity as the reason for layoffs, genuinely, as if the economy was doing really great and capitalism simply worked before Miles Morales was Spider-Man. They also don't recognize that Miles as Spider-Man, by the way.
How did we get capitalism out of this whole conversation? It's like how do we even make this turn? It's like we were
It's
supposed to
what
get
this
off at like exit 60 and we're at exit like 103. It's like how did that happen?
right. All this company would do very well in a communist environment, clearly, where there's no private corporations whatsoever. So,
Hmm.
obviously. The weirdest part is when I see these takes from developers or people who have dev bios, at least. IDK. It seems wild that a dev would see thousands of layoffs and blame not the industry giants, but instead a 15-person narrative company founded by a black woman.
So wait, there's only 15 people who work for this crappy company,
That's
and
it. Yep,
they've caused this much damage.
that's correct. You nailed it.
Ooh.
And so Maya goes on and she says, these people think a company of narrative designers that freelances on projects has somehow single handedly caused the employment collapse in games instead of, the insane notion of infinite growth or capitalist greed. It's easier to blame diversity than that somehow.
Yeah, this is why you don't hire communists to do literally anything in your company.
It's not like they do anything anyway, but
Yeah.
I still think it's way more likely that they know that's not the case and are just fine with looking stupid so long as it justifies them being loudly anti-woke, whatever that means. We all know what it means.
By the way, it sounds like this is written by a woman because she's taking absolutely no accountability for any of her actions whatsoever.
Maya Kramer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't know too many dudes named Maya. The other part of this is it doesn't matter if you tell them the truth. They think DEI is just steps in and changes the whole game, changes the whole games. That creators are forced by some unseen hand. The government, BlackRock, I guess, as well as just POC in general to make games more inclusive. Well, yeah, BlackRock announced that that's part of their initiative and the government barks about it nonstop. So what?
Well, here's another thing. If your job is so insignificant because you're trying to downplay your role in the fall of a lot of these gaming organizations, why would anyone hire you to begin with? If you're just responsible for absolutely nothing and your job is so minor, it's almost like you're so minor that we actually don't need you. So why exactly are you complaining about again?
Right, and as Bayona Rad says here, Sweet Baby Inc. are cowards and have been trying to hide in the shadows, and it's true. They've been drug out in the light by this random dude that put this thing together on Steam.
They keep trying to hide behind the bush, but the spotlight keeps chasing them, so they have to like hide somewhere else.
Right, and Sweet Baby Inc. wants the mat now. They want to go now. They want to go the now. Yeah, yep. They want to have their fight now. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good
Fighting
luck with that one.
misinformation. Oh, okay. Fighting misinformation would be great, but social media plus YouTube is not equipped to hold people accountable to doing real research in good faith. Just getting hits and providing their point in the absence of confirmation. It's wild out there. Nothing has changed. Nothing.
Wah 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 wah.
Sorry, sorry, no one thing has changed. That's a very bizarre thing to say, isn't it? Sorry, no
Yeah.
one thing is. Oh, sorry, no one thing has changed. There we go. The number of people who understand that spreading misinformation just lets them be racist in public with no consequence has increased dramatically. That has changed. Probably requires some fighting from those with authority. Probably frowny face. Frowny face. For
But
example,
like just real quick before you look at the last one, notice how these people never actually like talk like adult human beings. Like they
yeah,
always talk like they're emotionally like 14 years old.
right, or they talk like sitcom actors or supervillains.
Yeah.
They've never been in a actual real life like conflict that
It's like
involved them having
they
to defend themselves.
either talk like a 14-year-old or they talk like a Josh Whedon character. It's like
Right.
You're 2 years away from menopause. Like grow up, lady.
Right. It's a little late now, you know? For example, at Steam doesn't have guidelines for curators, as far as I could tell, that would prevent someone from starting a curation group that focuses on, say, Sweet Baby Inc. and warns people not to buy games they're associated with, which would just be list any game at all. So wait, Does that mean that all the games are Sweet Baby Inc. games? That would explain why everything sucks.
It
How
almost
about
seemed like
that?
you guys have a little bit more influence than you're letting on here in your nonsensical rant.
Now, I want to point out just really quickly, we'll go back up to the community note that was put on this, but this is from February 29th, okay?
Yeah.
Now, let's take a look at the number. That's 9,000, right? 9,263 people. Now, let's take a live look at it. Oh, wow. It's 135,922 people now. You did a very good job, Maya. Good job.
Mm-hmm. Way to shoot yourself in the foot. Put another round in the chamber and then shoot yourself in the other foot. That's just great. Now you have to crawl. Good luck, dummy.
So here come the community notes, our double-edged sworded friends, and they say the curator uses Sweet Baby Inc.'s website as their source. Also, it should be noted that Lego Butts, this person, Felix at Home, the character that has been screaming at us, works for Sweet Baby Inc.
Oh, that's a cool dink. Like we should just add like that old Eli Drake dummy, yeah.
And replying with this, and she says, it's pretty funny to see a note on my Steam curator post. I guess they need to defend themselves because they're completely wrong about everything Sweet Baby or any narrative team does and have no interest in finding out. Yep.
I do love the rage when like somebody on the left gets like community noted and then they have to like replies like, how dare you correct my anger, like nonsensical BS.
I made up that fake person and I hate them, darn it. So
this is what Elon has done to us.
Another employee of Sweet Baby Inc. sparks up and says this: the @stream curator harassment group Sweet Baby Inc. detected is led by this person. It's Kaburutusurambo. Kabuturus. Yeah, anyway.
Police, can you file a report on Cobb Brutus Rambo? It's like, ma'am, you want us to file a police report on a Brutus Rambo on Twitter? Yes,
it's Cobb Brutus. It's Cobb Brutus. Don't you know? It's Cobb Brutus. They're a hate group.
Anyway. Ma'am, you know fake 911 calls is a felony, right?
Here's them trying to be slick so they don't get reported. Even with discriminatory language filed off, the group itself still fails the code of conduct.
Two things about this. I think Rad just mentioned that this is a black woman, and I'm guessing by the avatar, this is a black woman too. No, for how many years was it? It was like a little bit over 10 years ago when people were complaining that, you guys are not letting women into, the video game space. You're not allowing us to be a part of your community. This is why you are not let in.
Yeah, Boba Fett gets it. This is Crybaby Inc. Yep, exactly. Yep. It clearly fails the code of conduct. And then they say, anyway, report the F out of this group. So they call for mass reports to abuse the Steam report function. So this is what they do when they get exposed. They want to silence the criticism as opposed to addressing it.
Yeah, because they could have just easily said that, hey, the information that this group is giving out is completely inaccurate. And when they said of like trying to just shut it down altogether, just like question the credibility, the authenticity of this group. But the fact that they're going out of their way to try to shut these people up and silence them pretty much means that they were pretty much on the ball with everything that they said about this company to begin with.
Bingo.
So, congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, and report the curator since he loves his account so much. So this guy, I guess, he gets to lose his account because he was like, hey, I think people ought to know that these weirdos who ruin games are ruining games.
Some literal rando from Brazil. It's now like it's hard.
It doesn't say American. Brazil, but it does say Brazil right there.
Yeah.
Look at that. So they're racist.
Yeah, quite literally just going out there. This might be like some 15-year-old like with an Xbox account from Brazil. It's like, we need to get this guy down. Shut him down, damn it.
Extradite him.
Well, they're sitting over there drinking their wine and smoking cigars. So
at the time of this article, there were 68,000 people that were following this curation list, And so right now, Sweet Baby Inc. We'll check in again. 136,000. It went up. It went up by 2,000 while we were streaming here, and 160 followers. It's working, guys. You did a great job. You totally helping your cause here.
Nice, nice going, guys. You insecure like jackasses. That's
So
what they say.
the guy that created the curation list had this to say. He says, "Man, I was almost forgetting how fun the internet can be. Thanks everybody for all the messages and support. Let's put the keys of the gaming industry back in the players' hands."
This is what you call doubling down.
This guy's the leader.
No,
This
no,
guy,
that's what I mean. It's like this is what you call doubling down. Like their whole tactic is that when they do things like this, they expect the person in charge to like just back down and be like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stroke your guys' anger." And it's like, yeah, let's bring the gaming industry back and the players, and not these harping ninnies over here.
well, there it is. A Doba Fett asks, "Why would anyone hire Soy Baby Stink at this point? They not only tank your video game, but they attack the public too on social media."
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there's only 15 of them too, so you can't bet that this got hidden very well. Then we have Dungeon Master Blaster who says a video was just posted a couple hours ago. The guy reveals some of the Gamergate 1 people are directly connected to this company. Doesn't surprise me. Not at all.
Yeah,
This is what Anita Sarkeesian wanted.
Yep. Like I said, this is the exact justification of why people didn't let you into their space to begin with, because they didn't want you to hijack and poison their space, and that's exactly what you did.
Right, and again, like, this is not like new for them. This is kind of like their MO. If you look at all the things they've touched, they pretty much murdered the franchise as for being part of it. Their influence on Ragnarok isn't just to Mag Raboda, it's also extending into how they convey Kratos and his son. And I just can't remember. Boy, that's all I just can't remember his son's name at the moment. Boy, that's all I remember.
We're just going to call him Boy for the remainder of this show.
Yeah, right. And again, like their relationship was dramatically altered to suit Sweet Baby Inc.'s like, "Oh, these are white people. We got to be careful with these white people." I think Kratos was even like recontextualized a little bit to be some type of like Libyan who found his way across the Mediterranean, right? Starts with M. Sorry. My brain will eventually click up there. But yeah.
It's a big word. Yeah, I get it.
Sure, like Mississippi. Just like that.
Do you know how many S's are in that word?
We also ended up getting Sydney Sweeney last night over on the SNL.
Or a Monday night. I mean, not Saturday night, I should say.
Saturday night, I'm sorry. Yeah. These days all bleed together for me, and I'll get around to
it's all blur after a while.
Well, it's when you see she just steals the show, right? It could have been a Wednesday, and I would have thought it was Saturday, So yeah. I did not watch this though. Did you?
No, I only saw the clips that people were passing around on social media. And obviously it was like this one and another one where, obviously her assets were being very well revealed in last Saturday night show, which, yeah, maybe if they front loaded that, people would have actually watched it.
Yeah, well, there's a guy claiming that woke is dead now because they allowed her to show her cleavage on the show on Saturday Night Live.
Let's not go that far. Like here's what it really comes down to with Sydney Sweeney. We haven't really had a quote unquote sex symbol style actress. The last one I can honestly think of is probably like Scarlett Johansson. Probably the last one I think of, or like recent memory. But like I said, over this whole like kind of like Me Too / non-binary era, we're just so used to seeing like a bunch of mildly to downright unattractive women being like the leader in the face of Hollywood over the last several years, except for the ones who have like been around for like a while, obviously, but kind of like the new breed. This is what's been presented to us now. And now you have a girl here who's obviously very attractive, very voluptuous. And now people are like, oh, wait, I didn't know Hollywood made women like this anymore. Yeah, exactly. We used to call them bombshells. And that's kind of the way that Hollywood used to do things. But like I said, you have to remember Harvey Weinstein isn't running the show anymore. So he's not picking and choosing like these women like he used to do back in the day. So now the ones that are plucking out the talent are going to like D-list, going to the D-list to find some of these people. But obviously she's going to be the new it girl for the next few years. I will say this, I've heard Sydney Sweeney in other interviews say things to make me believe that, she's definitely a lot smarter than a lot of the other actresses that are around or have come up in the system over the last few years. Like you talk about her to like negotiating contracts and trying to like get movies produced. So it's like clearly she's not just a dumb blonde. Like obviously she plays a lot of dumb blondes in the projects that she does, but she's clearly a lot smarter than she is. My question is that is she eventually going to end up just like everyone else, or are we going to start seeing, I don't know, at least a slight change here? Because like I said, it's a Hollywood system. We all know what happens to people in Hollywood. You may start off there innocent enough, but the deeper into the game you get and the bigger your popularity blows up, it's only going to be a matter of time for something goes sideways. So now it feels like with this whole thing with Saturday Night Live, she's a mainstream star now. So it's like, okay, how long is it going to take for this I guess actress to go sideways? How long is it going to take for her to become, I guess, the next Margot Robbie, or over the next several years? It's like, so I don't know. It can go either way, but yeah, she definitely made God, everything I'm going to say sounds like a pun, but she definitely made a big impression on Saturday night, if you know what I mean. So,
Well, sure. It was meant to be that way because of course they play that up. See why this is a big deal. Why we are so like tiptoey about this is because it's been so long.
yeah.
If you flash back to when Pamela Anderson was going around on just about every sitcom show there was, she was on Good Morning America, in all the movies. This was no big deal to see a lady with large breasts being promoted all over the place because what do you know? Men are attracted to that. You can see our stream numbers bouncing up and down right now because of that. And that's just how it works. That's the reality of humanity. And what the woke tries to deny us is that. And that's why we feel so passionately and have like all of our heads turning, not just because she's a pretty girl with big boobies, but also because it's been so long that we've been allowed to see that in public without having to be like, oh, I'm not into women like that. I respect women. You know, you can't just be like, no, I'd rather move my hands out of the way
that's
and
the
go,
other. That's the other part of it too. I've kind of made this parallel, like kind of in the pro wrestling world too, because 20 years ago, you used to have like women in bra and panties matches in like WWE, and that was back when they were actually catering towards like that 18 to 34 male demographic. Who, I hate to break this to you guys, 18 to 34 like women with boobs. Like it's not a controversial statement to say there, unless you're like one of those like weird rainbow people. I mean, men like boobs. It's just the way it's been. It's the way it's always going to be. It's just the way it is. But now here we are, where everyone's trying to be like the good ally, quote unquote, now. So everyone's gonna be like, oh, I don't like seeing women revealing themselves because I'm a male feminist. I'm an ally. It's like I want women to like, I want to praise women for like their abilities and like their actings. Like, guys, like you don't have to go like this far to try to oppress like the female demographic. And this is what we've been doing in Hollywood. It's this whole idea of, well, we're not going to placate to the male gaze anymore. You know, we want men to respect us. And then we've been in the we want men to respect us era now for the last few years. As you can see in Hollywood, one project after another is literally going down in flames, like falling right out of the sky. So now it feels like suddenly it almost feels like kind of like they're throwing a trap out there. See, like, hey guys, remember that whole male gaze thing that we were talking about? How you guys like this one? Is this gonna get us some money? And like I said, maybe Hollywood's in a position now where they need some boobs on TV and in the movies because, like I said, if you've seen the box office recently, they're pretty hard up for cash. So I say maybe they're in a point of desperation, or we'll have to wait and see.
Beyond Rad says, I haven't seen Sweeney say male toxicity yet. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true.
Like I said, she hasn't, you know, at least not now. She hasn't bought into like the old agenda yet. But like I said, the deeper you get into, you know, the beast, you know, it feels like it's only a matter of time. So we'll be cautiously optimistic for the time being. But like, hey, look, her star power is working for her. It didn't work for Madam Web, but it's working for her outside of that. Like that movie, Anything But You, apparently did what, $200 million out of the box office so far on a pretty low budget. So that's a pretty successful movie up to this point. And hey, if it works for her, we'll see where it goes.
This is her opening monologue, I guess. So we'll take a look at what they claim was a big deal with her about her opening.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh boy, Elon, you got to fix this, brother. This
is bad. Well, I was gonna say too, you know, Saturday Night Live is notorious for, you know, claiming their monologues after the fact. But
happy to be here. My name is Sydney Sweeney.
Yep. Cool.
I play a nun, so it's perfect casting.
Cool.
I feel a bond to both states. Like when people ask, where are you from? I say Washington.
Cool.
But when people ask, did you go to a Trump-themed party for your mom? I say, Idaho. Because I presented them with a 5-point plan to break into acting. It was a PowerPoint presentation, and I still have it. Check it out.
Here's the other thing that you have to remember too. It's like Saturday Night Live. It's still modern Saturday Night Live like writers too. That's why people say, "Oh, woke is dead. We've triumphed." It's like slow down. Like let's not forget who is on this show and who's writing this show. So it's not like we declared like complete victory or anything like this. But I do want to ask you this just real quick before you play the next part of this movie here. I mean this clip here. Is that we've talked about this a couple of times before. She's supposed to be playing in a Barbarella remake here. And it's still in development. I don't know what the status of it is, but she's been attached to it. I don't know how far they're getting here. Are they going to go all in on embracing all the elements of Barbarella, or are they going to try to remake that movie for quote unquote modern audiences? Because they're going to have to kind of pick a side here, because we're talking about those over the top, schlocky type of 70s and 80s films where there's a lot of gratuitous nudity and things of that nature. But keep in mind, they've said over the last several years, like, oh, we don't want to do stuff like that anymore. It's like, well, you can't do Barbarella if you don't want to do that stuff anymore. So you have an attractive actress playing the role that Jane Fonda played back in the day. It's like, which plane are you gonna go with this whole thing? Like Edgar Wright would probably in tarts now. Edgar Wright, I mean, if you put it in the right comedic role, it's not a bad choice. But like I said, it depends on how Hollywood's going to put this one together. Does Edgar Wright being at the helm make you less worried or more concerned? Like, what do you think of this one?
I am way more worried with Edgar Wright in charge of this. I saw Baby Driver, and that was a horrible movie. It seems like without Sean, what's his face there? Sean, little guy, tall, squirrely.
Yeah, the Shaun of the Dead guys.
Yeah, the Shaun of the Dead guys. It seems like without them, he just can't do a movie. He can't even be like a serious movie. Like, I know he was
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Those are the
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, right? That he can't do a movie without those guys. So Edgar, unless he's putting them in this, which I guess they'd fit. I mean, I love Barbarella, not because it's a good movie, not because there's anything really redeemable about it, but because it's such a terrible, terrible movie. That's why I love it. And so these guys being in the background in that city of the damned, where all of their hopes and dreams are being drained into the lava lamp, it's great. That would be great, having them, just these weirdos wearing plastic and spandex. It'd be funny. Perfect. Yeah. Or they're welded into the wall like those people who gave up in the labyrinth, I'm sorry. I've watched this movie 1 billion times since I was a kid, and it's so weird and dumb. I love it.
Hey, look, we all got bad movies. Like I said, I unironically think Jingle All the Way is the best Christmas movie of all time, and I'll stand by that one. But yeah, I mean, look, we're at a point now where in Hollywood where I think things are going to get worse for them before it gets any better. And if they don't want to teeter on a complete collapse, they're going to have to pick two roads here. You're going to have to essentially do a Bud Light. And remember when the whole Bud Light controversy happened, and then they tried to walk it back, be like, hey guys, remember drinking beer with the boys and hanging out in in cowboy boots and driving pickup trucks, and going back to that whole kind of like pivot? Or they're just going to have to just double down even further and be like, nope, this is what you're getting now. We're never going back. If you don't like the direction that Hollywood is going, then tough shit. You're going to have to pick a lane here. So is she going to be used as the kind of the pivot point, or are they just going to conform her to the ideals of what Hollywood is now? And that's kind of the big question with her now.
Well, and that's just what Bayona Rad says here. Barbarella is dumb, fun film. And that's true. And that's, if they miss the point of that, if they try to serious that, if they try to put some kind of feminist message in it or something like that, it'll completely destroy the movie. It's one of the reasons why, there was a loose gun control message in RoboCop, and it just completely spoiled the movie because of that that you can feel that throughout the whole movie, that there's this gun control effort throughout the whole reboot. And
here's what Hollywood is going to have to understand. Like say Barbarella, for example, if they go forward with that movie, you have to understand that women are not going to see Barbarella just because Sydney Sweeney is in the movie. That's not how it works. Like, people are going to watch the movie are going to be overwhelmingly male. So if you don't play up to the audience who are going to go see that film and you decide, you know what, we're going to put a whole bunch of feminism and strong female lead and Me Too, all this stuff, people are going to completely reject this movie because women are already not going to go see it. And then the only audience that you have for this is going to be like, okay, red flag, I'm out of here. So pick a lane. You got two. By the way, another bad movie that I unironically like is 1996 film House Arrest with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not sure if you remember that movie from back in the day.
No, I think I was too young for that, but
1996?
yeah, I was like 6 years old.
No.
Yeah. But speaking of Hollywood doing, oh wait, this is from Dungeon Master Blast. Says a Barbarella remake needs a sort of Austin Power feel to it, maybe a bit. Comedy is so dead these days, though. It's true. If you flip the Austin Powers formula, where like this very horny super spy is going around having sex and slowly solving a mystery, that's pretty much Barbarella's story. So if they decide that Y2K ham it up with that, like even the visuals from the Y2K would work for it. But again, like I know this is a bad movie. I know like the worst ideas in cinema went into it at the time. She has her spaceship is ceiling, walls, and floor, shag carpet, brown shag carpet. She sleeps on saran wrap. She did it. She salutes with like love. You know, she's like, I forget how it goes. It's like love. Your hand goes up in the air and you say love, and that it's a horrible, horrible, horrible movie. But it's wonderful in how horrible it is. Unlike this.
Oh yeah, Dune 2. So I will say this, and I guess it's kind of a setup here. So I saw Dune 2 this week. Before I saw Dune 2, I went back and I rewatched the first Dune movie. Now, you have to understand that a lot of people were saying the first Dune movie was like this massive cinematic achievement. People were saying it's like one of the greatest things they had ever seen. There's a lot of people in our sphere who really like that film. I hated that movie. I thought that it was the most boring Drek that I've ever seen. It's hard to follow. There's way too many characters. It's not interesting. And when you really go down to it, it's essentially a 2.5-hour commercial for this movie that we have coming out here. So we couldn't really gauge whether the first half was actually any good because it was setting up for something that we weren't going to see till 3 years later. Now that we finally see where we've gone here, I can honestly say that the first movie definitely did not redeem itself at all, but I will say that at least this film is far better paced and far better style than the first movie is, because we don't have to worry about all the introductions, all the setup, all of the just absolute filler that the first movie was. So we kind of get direct right to the point here. So Dune 2 here, you bring back Timothy Chalamet, who I think the last time you guys may have seen him was in the film Wonka, which was not a good movie. Like I say, he feels like he's another one of the it people who is going to be on the rise here over the next several years. Seems like Hollywood is really into him as kind of the next big thing, the same thing that they're into Zendaya. So it really no shocker here that they really paraded them around the most when they were promoting this film, because those are the two that they want to go over here. But it's weird. Have you seen the first Dune movie? Are you kind of familiar with Dune?
Yeah, I've seen both of the first movie and the original 1980 attempt there, 1980s attempt, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously this is a film that, you know, one of the key aspects of this movie is that it blends in a lot of ideas from several world religions and kind of like puts it into like one big like melting pot here. So the idea here is that, you know, our character of Chalamet, he is supposedly the prophesized Mahdi. That comes from Islamic eschatology, which, you know, if you study my Monday night show, just Mary be the Antichrist, but that's a whole nother conversation. We'll have that later on. So there's kind of a conflict here about whether he's really truly the chosen one or not, because the people, Zendaya's people, really don't believe that he is the one who they prophesize, because he's not one of quote unquote their people. But obviously his mother, played by Rebecca Hall, is trying to essentially self-fulfill that prophecy to say that he is that one, because she knows that, you know, if I can get all these people on my side by saying that my son is the chosen Messiah, then I can basically control all of these people. And I find it very interesting that Frank Hubert, who was the guy who wrote the book that inspired all the movies and whatnot, he was really using this as an allegory against Catholicism, believe it or not, because apparently he was raised by two Jesuit aunts. So in the context of the film here, what the Rebecca Hall's character is portrayed as like a very, very manipulated female character throughout the entire movie. Like clearly she's pulling the strings of this film. She's manipulating the people to try to get people to rally around her son for power purposes. She's trying to manipulate the higher kingdom. So like I said, a very, very devious woman. And when you hear some of the quotes that Frank Herbert had about, you know, his upbringing and what, you know, his aunts and his sisters around him did to him, it kind of looks like he's like portraying that out on the film. That's what it really feels like here. So there's a reason why you'll notice certain things, like especially if you're kind of like big into religion, or at least know kind of the key aspects here. So you'll notice these things right away with this film. It's pretty much undeniable here. As far as like the visuals go, what's the name? Denis Villeneuve. Well, you have to say it like a Frenchy way, because you know you can't say it like the regular American way. You can't just say Dennis like a normal person. But
right,
this guy, his visual storytelling is great. His visual storytelling is amazing in this movie. You can't deny that. You may have seen other films like, you know, Arrival, Sicario, Blade Runner, 2049 was a big one too. Visually, his films look absolutely astounding. The problem is that the story never really matches his actual work. The only film that he managed to put everything together was a film called Sicario a few years ago. And you have to remember that was a film that Taylor Sheridan wrote. So that's why that film worked, because it had Sheridan backing it up, the screenplay. When you try to put him to his own devices here, he really can't connect with an audience in a meaningful way. And he also had a quote out here not too long ago basically saying that, you know, he blames television for kind of ruining movies. And his theory is that because people are so used to watching television, when they watch movies, they want movies with good dialogue and memorable lines, stuff like that. He wants to more just focus on the art aspect of filmmaking. And it's like,
typical
well, I hate to...
Frenchy.
Typical Frenchie, right? But it's like, I hate to break this to you, but yeah, dialogue and character and storytelling are very, very big parts of the film. So if you lack those fundamental things, there's no way for your audience to emotionally connect with anyone you have on screen. Essentially, what you have is just a bunch of blank faces and a bunch of blank names that no one can really connect to. It's like, let's say Timothée Chalamet is just supposed to be essentially a fraudulent messiah. He may or may not be the chosen one. Nobody knows. You have Zendaya, who's against him being the Mahdi, but also loves him, so she can't really pick a side of what side she's going to be on. Dave Bautista, for whatever reason, some people think that he's a good actor, is basically just yelling at people throughout this entire film. So I think we really need to stop this narrative that Dave Bautista is good at acting, because he's really not. The film has a whole bunch of like I said, big name actors in this. Florence Pugh is in the movie. She's in the movie like the first 5 minutes, and then you don't see her again until like almost 2 hours later, so you almost forget she's in the film. Anna Taylor-Joy obviously was a big promoted cameo, and that's quite literally what it is. She appears in a 15-second, I guess, flashback scene, and then you don't see her again in the movie as well. So there's still there's still a lot of issues, and there's still a lot of flaws with this entire presentation. And here you are, you're 2 movies down. Apparently they have at least 2 more planned. Like, I know he's working on the Messiah version. That'll probably be out in like 3 or 4 years whenever that's all said and done. Maybe another one after that. But at the 2 movies in, you're not really telling that compelling of a story enough to keep people interested. Which essentially what you're doing is that you're giving people great visuals to kind of distract them from a lack of a plot. And that's pretty much what this film is. With that said, it's not nearly as dry as the first movie. It's not nearly as boring as the first movie. It's much easier to follow. There is a lot more interaction with the characters that help. It makes it a lot easier to follow as a story. But I said, I don't know if Denis here is really the guy who should be in charge of the writing aspect of this film. Like, if you want to do visual directing, that's fine. I think he's great at that. But his story is falling flat so far, 2 movies in. So if you look at the state of the box office right now, there's not a lot of movies out there that I can recommend to you. It's just not. Like, I was talking to Cole Classic Cage not too long ago, and she wanted to go see a movie like a friend of hers, but she didn't really know what was out. And it's like, I've seen all the movies that are out right now. There's nothing really that good. So if you're really dying just to see something on a big screen, maybe this is the film for you. I can't say that it's definitely going to be that movie for you, because the reaction's been pretty mixed, especially if you're a fan of the books. We talked to a couple people who are like hardcore fans of the Dune novel, and they say that they are very dissatisfied with this movie due to a creative decision that they made towards the end. Now, I can't speak to that one because I'm not a big fan of the books. I'm just judging this by the movie, but if you know a lot more about the Dune universe, you're probably going to be more dissatisfied by the direction that they went in this film. overall, like I said, a lot of things to like, a lot of things to hate. It's right down the middle for me. I'll give it like a 2.5 out of 5. That's probably the best grade that I can give to it. And as sad as it is so far this year, 2.5 out of 5 makes it one of the better movies we've seen so far this year. Like I said, it's not been a great start to the 2024 cinematic season. So,
Well, I think the biggest problem is that they want to take Dune too seriously. In the adaptation that we were getting in the 80s, they were acknowledging that it was a man coming to prominence. You know, that he was a boy, even though it was played by an adult actor, but he was a boy who was rising up into his manhood, if you will. And wasn't a coming of age story, mind you, but that was how the movie portrayed it. And here, where it's closer to the books, but also in the more esoteric sense, they take a much more philosophical stance with Paul.
yeah.
You leave modern audience, you leave any audience behind, really. Movies are not books. That's why the book is always better, because you can take time to absorb the idea. You can use 6 paragraphs to talk to the audience about how the sand is communicating to Paul, how he can feel the sandworms talking to him, what it feels like to have their psionic communications hitting him and stuff like. I think it's what it's called. What that feels like. But in the movies, if you show like 3 minutes of the sand just vibrating, everybody's bored. They're popped open their phones, they're checking their Twitter, like, hey, boring movie I've ever seen. And that's just what happens. So Villanueva's situation with this is that he just loves the Rian Johnson vistas. Look at all these vistas we have. Look at all the desert, all this king desert. Have you seen so much king sand in your life?
Giant butthole worms.
Right, giant butthole worms that people ride on because walking is too dangerous. And also, if you breathe the air, you're on acid. You know, it's just, that's a coolest crap. That's a really cool concept they should be running with. Like, Timothée Chalamet should be laying on the sand without his mask on, like full on, what is it, Fear and Loathing on Arrakis. Yeah. Like, he should be tripping BALLS throughout that entire first movie. Like, he's seeing his eyes glowing and he's like, how many fingers, you know? Instead, they're just like the kind of the Kryptonian thing happens, right? That's what's going on with him when he's experiencing the spice, is what happened to Zod when his suit got destroyed and he had to pull off his environmental seal, is that he's just having a sensory overload, which honestly, I think kind of diminishes what the spice is supposed to be and its effects on people, and why the Sand People, I keep forgetting their name. I know they have a better name, but the Sand People have such a divergent culture, and why they're life or death and survivalists. It's not just because of their environment, but it's what the planet itself has taught them through the spice. Yeah, Mavistas. Yeah, the Fremen. It's why the Fremen have such a vastly different way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, when you read Dune the whole way through, you have a different appreciation for it than Villanueva's vistas, you know, everywhere you look.
Yeah.
The thing is they always choose the dullest times to really slow down this thing. This is the point with Villanueva that I'm annoyed by. We had that cool Power Ranger battle where, like, all the guys in the environmental SEAL suits were fighting each other in his dream or hallucination or something like that. And rather than making that like some 5-minute thing where he just goes on this really long trip where he's just absolutely engrossed in this story and the audience gets a chance to actually feel what Paul being what the jihad, what the galactic jihad looks like, that's done in his name, right? When we actually experience it, it does it. It's just like this quick thing. You just long enough to understand these people are fighting and Paul's part of it. And then you're done. And it's like, you're back to these long panning shots of the desert.
Here's an interesting take here. I guess we can parlay this into discussion. So we're talking about Dune. Denis here says that Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Austin Butler, and Florence Pugh are movie stars of the future. So he's pretty much staking his claim that these 4 right here are the Hollywood of the future. That these are going to be the guys who carry the mantle for us in this new generation here. Now, on face value, he's not wrong by what he's saying, because if you look at about what Hollywood is doing and who Hollywood is pushing, these are the four people who they seemingly are pushing the hardest right now. We talked about Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya earlier. Austin Butler, believe, did he win his Oscar last year, or was he runner up last year for Elvis? I think he was nominated. I don't recall if he actually won or not.
Was nominated. He did not. The whale one. The whale one. With Brendan Fraser.
Okay.
That's the one that won.
But
yeah,
but he was nominated. And then Florence Pugh obviously is a big star in the way here. So these are the four people who Hollywood are pushing all their chips into. So for a guy being in the, kind of the Hollywood bubble and seeing that, you know, these are the four people that the industry essentially wants to push here, he's not wrong from his perspective. The problem is that, are these the four people who audiences are going to accept as the future of the business moving forward? Because the only person here out of this four who I think has the most potential to be a breakout actor is Austin Butler. Like, he's the only one who I've actually seen some range from him to make it like, wait, this guy actually has like talent. Florence Pugh, I mean, I haven't seen anything from her that's truly impressed me. Like, you might actually do like her portrayal of quote unquote White Widow in the MCU, but not enough to be like, oh yeah, she's like the next big thing. And then, like I said, I just don't see it with Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet like at all. Like, I know Zendaya has like a following from Disney and whatnot. Timothée Chalamet, I haven't seen him in a single movie that has impressed me up to this point. It's just the way that it is. But like I said, if this is who Hollywood is mortgaging their future on, does that make you think good things or bad things about our future direction here?
I think horrible things, because I know who the public actually wants. So there's 3 stars right here that the public wants to see more of.
Yeah. It probably draws more money too, for being completely honest with ourselves.
It honestly does, because we just saw that on Saturday Night Live, where they just let her just boob out the whole time. Even made a PowerPoint discussing that her chest is the center point of her like career, if you will.
Yeah.
And so,
you know what's funny? Do you remember an old show from the 90s called VIP with Pamela Anderson? Do you remember the show?
No, I wasn't allowed
to watch television.
Well, again, like you're saying, like 1990s, I'm like under 10. Until you get to 2000, I'm under 10, man. So I was like, if it wasn't on PBS, you know, you lost me.
Fair enough. I mean, maybe I was the one infidel watching like MTV like at 10 years old. So I mean,
well,
fair enough.
Right. Well, you probably had it. I'm up in Maine, dude. Like, life was black and white until like 2001. You know.
Mm-hmm. But so if you guys don't remember that show, it was a show with Pamela Anderson right after she left Baywatch, and essentially it was about her being, I guess, forced to run a Hollywood bodyguard agency that she kind of got like mistaken as a bodyguard. So she had a whole bunch of like other people who were running the agency like for her. It's like Sydney Sweeney would be perfect for like a reboot of that, because I heard the rebooting Baywatch earlier today that's been confirmed now. And by the way, if you don't think they're gonna make an all black Baywatch, that's exactly what they're gonna do. So just a quick little spoiler alert there. But yeah, I mean, you talk about her essentially being like the new Pamela Anderson. Was like make her do take over like one of old Pamela Anderson's old properties, like something that someone would actually want to take over. Yeah, here it is, the show here. So it's like, you know, try to do something creative here, but it just feels like we bring up all of these ideas that are far better than what Hollywood is giving us now, and they're just going, no, we're gonna go do this other thing now. Hey, you guys want a woke version of Barbarella? It's like, no. Why would we want that?
Well, this is just it. Is that the 90s are back? If you haven't watched the way the fashion trend is going, there's like a bling blast or something to do with bling is the name of the fashion that's coming over, but it's just Y2K fashion again. It's all the hard color contrast, silver against the intense neon colors, the 70s millennium reboot that we got in 2000 to 2003. And so it's back again because they got bored of the 80s. We're burning through decades because the internet accelerates everything from a 10-year cycle to a 2-year cycle now. So
yeah, I mean, we're in this area. You might as well bastardize the 90s, right?
Well, that's just it. So this would be an opportunity to do this, but the problem is that they would have her leading like a squadron of all gay people. It would be like an LGBTQ thing. They wouldn't be able to go honest with this. It's just like if they try, she would be great for a barbed wire reboot. She already demonstrated she can do the superhero thing when she was in the Madam Web thing that nobody used the footage from. So why not put her in barbed wire where she gets to tromp around in her big old platform boots and toss ninja stars at guys?
By the way, you just reminded me too. So the woman on the far left played the girl named Nikki that was on the show, and Nikki was a very sexy tomboy like character. Like she wasn't like your typical like girly girl either, but she was like very fit, very attractive, and still heterosexual. By the way, because you can actually be that back in the 1990s. But yeah, if they ever were to reboot this, that 1000% her character would be a lesbian. Like that would be the easiest like turn for them, because like I say you can't just be a tomboy anymore. That's not allowed.
So that could be Sydney Sweeney this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't even have to really do anything to her. Just hand her a fake gun and just tell her to look cute with it. You don't even know what to do. You don't even know how to like put your finger on it, darling. We can handle it all in CGI. All you have to do is wave the thing around and make kissy faces. We'll handle the rest. And that they won't do it. Like the Miami Vice, like you remember the Miami Vice reboot that showed up 2011, I think is when that popped up. 2009.
I want to say that was like 2005, actually. The one with Jamie Foxx and what's his face?
Yeah,
I think that was like 2005. If I'm not mistaken.
2006. You're right. I'm sorry, I was off by half a decade. My apologies. But yeah, like this again, like this reboot was ridiculous and it was stupid. Now you have an opportunity right now. Take a minute, close your eyes, think about Sydney Sweeney taking over of Miami Vice, right? So she's now in Jodan Baker? Yeah, Jodan Baker, I think his name. Anyway, she's now the lead in Miami Vice. She's got oh my goodness, I'm so bad with actress names. But yeah, she's got a partner who's also a lady, and they bust crimes while they look pretty and explosions happen in the background. It can be as real as Miami Vice was back in the day. Yeah, Don Johnson. Sorry, not Joe Don Johnson. Yeah, Don Johnson. So she could do this. And again, like you just hand him a gun and you tell him to run around. You can even base it in the 80s. You can go nuts and make this undercover female cop duo, and they go around busting cocaine criminals in 1984. And you can make it a daily thing on CBS. But they won't. Yep. They won't do it because there's no way to wokeify that. You can't go back to the 80s and insert all this hyper feminism because it just doesn't fit. If you have two undercover cop ladies, the problem. A lot of the time they're going to be in the strip joints. They're not going to be out on the beat.
That's the problem, because we're always looking at it from how can we do this from an entertaining standpoint. They're looking at how can we subvert this to represent our worldview, and that's the key disconnect with all. Because we can come up with a 1,000 ideas that'll be so much better because we're focusing on actually making something that will be good and enjoyable. They're looking at it as like we need to take something from the past and update it for modern audiences, meaning that we need to subvert it so that it looks something like we would create. And when you have those two, you can't do both. You can't be entertaining and subversive at the same time. One's going to outweigh the other. And for the last several years now, we've been outweighing on the subversive side of things. So it's like, I said, not even a bad idea like what you brought up there. It's like, it's all good, but are they going to be the ones to do it? I just don't think that that's even in the cards right now.
Impossible. Yeah. You see, it's so sad because like we have the power with AI technology to be able to just like you don't have to do test footage anymore.
Yeah.
You can have the AI create all that stuff for you, so you don't have to bother these people. You can all see it in your studios and decide for yourself if it's going to work. But the trouble is it won't match the DEI problem. It won't make the DEI situation satisfied. Remember all that stuff that Sweet Baby Inc. saying doesn't exist? Here's the other thing about this, right?
Yeah.
Over in Japan, they would be more than happy to have Sydney Sweeney's huge tracts of land on screen all the time because ESG is draining out of Japan as we speak.
Can you imagine if like Japan did like an ecchi anime based on Sydney Sweeney? Like it would literally be like the biggest thing like ever.
Bloomberg, I hate you people. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is the thing. Let's say for whatever reason, out of the goodness of their hearts or whatever, they decide to let Netflix have another crack at Cowboy Bebop. So you take Sydney Sweeney and you plop a dark wig on her and you slap her in Faye's outfit, give her fire engine red lipstick, and tell her to be the sassiest sasspot that's ever sassed in space. And you've got it doesn't matter who she's opposite. John Cho could come back and just stand there smoking a cigarette. You know, as long as you've got that lady up front playing the character she's intended to play, you could do it. And again, like, absolutely, like Japan would reach out. I'm surprised we don't see this. You remember all the 80s commercials where like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and Stallone would go over there and they'd like talk about noodles and sausages and Mercedes in their commercials. I'm surprised we don't have Sydney Sweeney like advertising every chocolate they have over there. Like they have a billion different flavors of Kit Kats in Japan. I'm surprised they don't have Sydney Sweeney swimming pool of them. You know?
Yeah, like I said, and Pringles, see them throw Pringles under the bus. But remember, we used to, but you know, Hollywood used to do that back the days before the internet, where they can go do like commercials and like projects in like other countries under the guise that, well, America's never going to see this, right? And then like the internet became a thing and YouTube became a thing. People started like putting all those things on the internet. It's like, okay, I guess we can't do this anymore because people are going to see it. But I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, it's almost like I said, I keep trying to do the Eddie Brock thing and just like bringing up pro wrestling, but it's almost like doing an international tour. It's like do something that's like slightly different from what essentially the norm is from the Hollywood center, and I think it will be a good experience if like cool you can go do your Hollywood like corporate thing over there, but like occasionally, I don't know, branch out, get out of the system, get out of that town and try to do something a little bit more creative, a little bit more, hey, I don't have to be so into the Hollywood bubble that so many people are, they just can't get out of their own way.
Well, I mean, take a look. Wait for it. It's Arnold.
How much
he
money
has no idea what he's saying. Wait, look at this is what they used to do all the time in the 80s. This isn't just Arnold. I don't know why they're on V-tights.
Does Arnold Schwarzenegger have some half Japanese kid in the region right now?
Probably. Like 7 or 8 of them, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Harrison Ford playing a PlayStation. This is great. This is entertainment. This is how the Japanese advertise.
Yep. Old man plays video games.
He's playing Nathan Drake, get it?
Yep.
Because he's Indiana Jones. Get it?
Get it? Or do you expect him to play Killzone 2?
That would be great. Here's my playing Spider-Man. This is George Clooney living on a farm in Japan. I'll kill you later, bird.
Byron. 食べ比べたらわかります。Byron. 肉の旨味が生きています。糸ハムだから美味しい。弾ける美味しさ。
He's speaking Japanese.
That was the best take.
I don't want to make fun of him because he's got like stuff going on with his health, but I just wonder if every now and then he forgets where he is and he starts talking Japanese, just randomly, just starts breaking into Japanese.
He remembered the 3 lines from that commercial Japanese,
right,
and
exactly.
that's the only things he knows how to say.
Right, they bring him breakfast. He goes Sugoi, and they're like, "What, Bruce?"
Sure, yeah, exactly. What you said. Mm-hmm.
I don't know who Sugoi is, but I'm sure she's a nice lady.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But did you just call us Goim?
Whoops. Speaking of oopsie daisies, Jared Leto drops the first teaser for Tron Ares. That's right. Apparently, we're not done with Tron yet. We haven't thoroughly beaten the heck out of it yet. And now we're off to Jared Leto's attempt at resurrecting the franchise after Tron Legacy crashed and burned at the box office, despite being kind of okay.
Yeah, well, as we've talked about the course of this show, Disney needs the money. So if there is going to be another Tron movie, there's going to be another Tron movie because, yeah, we don't have any other properties that we aren't bleeding cash from currently, and Tron's probably our last hope. So we're going to sink $300 million into this one. We're going to have Jared Leto, who hopefully we can keep him mentally sane by the time we're done with the promotional story of this tour. Then hopefully we'll see a return at the box office, which probably won't happen, seeing how this would have to make like $1 billion in order for them to at least break even. So I'll say this to you. I think you're probably a much bigger Tron fan than me, because obviously I wasn't that big into the whole like Tron thing back in the day. But do you? It's Disney, so you can only have so much hope for this whole thing. But do you think that this has at least an ability to be better than the last one that they did? What was like 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago now?
No, I don't think they have that capacity.
Mhm.
To be completely honest, there is no way that the grid does not somehow become like some alt-right super evil haven, because some of what's leaked behind this teaser says that Leto will be playing a character that is a grid citizen, one of the programs from the grid brought to a human body, similar to how we saw Olivia Wilde's character leave the grid and at the end of Tron Legacy. So it looks like they're going to try and do this guy who's on a mission to destroy the They're going to do Terminator with Tron, basically. But I guarantee you, right, but with Dune, 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 Dune going on in the background. Yeah, like that. I'm sure headphone users love that, by the way. But this Tron Ares is supposedly going to feature Jared Leto leaving the grid, inhabiting a human body, or manifesting one, as we saw Olivia Wilde's character do, and go about destroying the Flynn family in the name of Clue, who was deleted at the end of it. And apparently also Flynn himself is gone in the process of that deletion, as was suggested at the end of the Legacy movie. But the problem is that you're going to see the grid most likely take on a alt-right kind of like pro-Trump sort of vision, and it's going to be like this very Nazi-like thing. In fact, I bet Trump will probably be the leader of it. Clue was colored orange, as opposed to the other programs that were like yellow and green and red and white for the users. Red were security programs, obviously. So this new leader of the grid will likely be wearing like orange and have some type of blonde hair or shaved head and just be like my kind of pale, if you will. And that'll be how they do it. And so Leto will be like granted this supreme mission of going out in the world, and he'll likely have like no respect for other ethnicities or anything like that. Because here's the thing, is that you didn't see it, but your brain did. In the Tron Legacy movie, all of the characters that were executed when Flynn was captured by the patrol unit machine, they were all ethnicities. They were all POC. The characters that survive, that go on to the games, are not. The hero characters, Olivia Wilde's white, Bridges is white, and so is Flynn, the hero, white. So you know what Disney's going to do? You know what they're going to do? They're going to make Jared Leto into digital Hitler, and they're going to send him on a POC killer mission in the IRL, Terminator style, glowy Terminator style.
He might even do the Roman salute too. Why not? Why not?
I don't doubt it at this point, and it'll have like all kinds of like laser light show to go with it and stuff like that, because they're just obsessed.
And then we know at some point somebody's going to say, "We're going to make the society great again." Like you just know what's coming.
And we will make the grid great again. You can hear it. And then like all the very white, very red, security machines are all going to be white, because ACAB, all security programs are bastards. And don't wait, that'll be out there. There'll be graffiti. There'll probably be BLM graffiti inside the grid. There'll probably be that. And you'll probably
Oh, the
see
good
like,
guys are definitely going to be socialists.
right, exactly. Socialist and of a diverse mix. And this is the problem, is that there's nothing wrong with having characters of a different racial background. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I love
Yeah.
the Power Rangers. That's pretty much all the Power Rangers centers itself on, is a Gap ad coming together to beat the hell out of space aliens. So it's just the problem we have is that Disney forces this stuff so the characters are nothing more than that racial background. They aren't people. They're just totems for what people who look like me in a writer's room with a Berkeley degree think people who look like Jacob do in life. And, the same people that Biden, get this, you saw his speech last night. I won't hold you any longer than this, though. You saw his speech the other night. He says Black people can't afford to get ID for voter ID.
Though they've been saying that for like 15 years now, is that Black people just don't have the financial ability to get an ID. We're too
Insane.
poor.
It's absolutely insane. You have, in order to ride a bus, you have to have a freaking ID. In order to buy alcohol, you have to, and cigarettes, you have to have a freaking ID.
Apparently, Black people have IDs to buy like 40 malt liquors and Switcher sweets, but you can't have an ID to go vote. That's a line too far.
It's too expensive to get one of those voter IDs, right?
Yeah, they just don't have the ability.
Right. Yeah. Well,
how can they be expected to go get IDs like all the white people? Come on now.
Right. I can't think of the video title at the moment, but there's this video of this Black guy and he's like in his boxers and he's like pushing around a laptop like he doesn't know what it is. And Biden's on the background talking about like how Black people can't get IDs and don't know how to use the internet and stuff like that. It's just, it's terrible. It's so terrible. But that brings us to the end of the Monday Rewind. Now you know what we know. Unfortunately, knowledge is a curse, as Thanos and Iron Man agreed. So we'll catch you in the next one. But Jacob, you have a show coming right up after this.
Yeah, at 8 p.m. we're going to be doing the next episode of the Bibleance podcast, and this week we got Shagsworth joining us in for a great conversation. So we're wrapping up a 4-week series where I've just been talking to people who, not particularly of the Christian faith, but are kind of on the fence and trying to get them to see, where their upbringing is, where we kind of differ, and hopefully we come to a resolution. So the first 3 great weeks been great. Had Rob on, we had Spencer, our editor-in-chief, here over the last 2 weeks, and now we're going to get Shagsworth on for a new conversation. So yeah, that's what we got coming up tonight, right after this show on Society Reviews. Got some articles coming up on the site as well, so you'll be seeing me around sooner rather than later.
Right, and don't forget to come back here on Wednesday for the 01 stream, where we'll most likely still be talking about Sydney Sweeney's boobs. What's that?
This guy over there.
Yeah,
I keep remembering it's mirrored. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'll be talking about them most likely. But the other thing is also to check out the new show that we've got going on. It's Tokyo Happy Hour, where Nerdigans and I talk about everything going on in Japan, from anime to sports to culture to music, whatever you would like to know, other than the deep dark politics, because I don't want the Yakuza showing up and giving me one of those neckties with the tongue. So yeah. But tune in for that. And don't forget, too, to show up for Jacob's show on Tuesday called The Barroom Podcast, where he brings together other internet personalities and they discuss the news of the day, sometimes involving bounding articles, but most of the time involving people acting terribly.
A lot of dum-dums. We cover all the dum-dums here on our show. So yeah, it should be great.
Well, and we'll see you in the next one. So feel free to hit like and subscribe and hit that bell for when we go live around here. And we'll see you in the next one. Catch you later.